Mother's wrath. The galactic empire was vast, unchallenged, and absolute. It had crushed thousands of rebellions, obliterated entire civilizations, and rewritten history to its liking. It feared nothing. That was its first mistake. Point 1. The crime. On the distant colony world of Vostok 12, an elderly woman named Yelena Markov lived a quiet life. She was beloved by her community, known for her wisdom, and respected by all. She tended to the sick, comforted the grieving, and told stories to the children about old Earth's myths. Among them was a story about Baba Yaga, the ancient Slavic witch who punished the wicked. The Galactic Empire's occupation of Vostok 12 was brutal. Soldiers extorted resources, crushed dissent, and treated humans as lesser beings. But Yelena, despite her age, defied them. She protected the weak and resisted where she could. Her quiet defiance, though small, was noticed. Point 1. Night, Imperial officers dragged her from her home. They accused her of aiding rebels. They beat her. They tortured her. And when they grew tired of her defiance, they executed her in the streets. They thought it was over. Point 2. The whisper of vengeance. The moment Yelena's blood touched the ground, a whisper traveled through the cosmos. It was ancient, dark, and filled with fury. It seeped into the shadows, coiling through the Empire's networks, reaching a woman they should have never angered. Some called her a ghost. Others, a legend. But she had a name. She was Baba Yaga, not the fairy tale. Not the myth. She was a woman forged in the crucible of war, a phantom of the forgotten battles, a mother whose rage burned brighter than suns. Yelena Markov had not been just another civilian. She had been her mother, and now, the Empire had signed its death warrant. Point 3. The first to die. It started subtly. Imperial officers stationed on Vostok 12 vanished without a trace. Their armor was found hollow, as if their bodies had been stolen from inside. Surveillance footage caught glimpses of a tall, cloaked figure moving in the darkness, eyes burning like embers. The garrison commander, a hardened war veteran, dismissed it as rebel activity. Then his own men turned up hanging from streetlights, their bones twisted unnaturally. Then he saw her. A woman clad in black. Her face pale as death. Her eyes glowing red. She whispered a name he had never spoken aloud, a name buried deep in his classified files. Mother sends her regards. And then his screams filled the night. Point 4. The hunt begins. Panic spread through the Empire's ranks. A single assassin couldn't bring down an empire, they told themselves. But Baba Yaga was not just an assassin. She was something else. Entire battalions went silent overnight. Admirals sent distress signals before their ships turned into floating charnel houses. Soldiers reported whispers in their helmets, voices of long-dead comrades warning them to run. On occupied worlds, resistance movements that had long been crushed suddenly rose, emboldened by the legend of the vengeful mother. They whispered her name before striking. And with every act of rebellion, the Empire felt her grip tightening around its throat. Point 5. The Emperor's mistake. Desperate, the Emperor himself issued a decree: Baba Yaga must die. He sent his best hunters, his most elite killers. None returned. He tried ambushes, traps, planetary bombardments. Nothing stopped her. Then, in his desperation, he made the final mistake. He insulted her mother's name. Point 6. The fallen imperial palace was impenetrable, an unbreakable fortress of steel and energy shields. Yet, one night, the guards heard knocking. Point 1. 2. 3. When they checked the cameras, no one was there. Then the power failed. When the lights returned, the Emperor's elite guards were gone. The grand halls, once bustling with advisors and nobles, were silent. The scent of blood hung thick in the air, and at the foot of the Emperor's throne, she stood. A Baba Yaga, his guards charged. They died before they could scream. The Emperor, a man who had commanded galaxies, trembled before her. She said nothing. She simply handed him a single, blood-stained locket. It was Yelena's, and in that moment, the Emperor understood. He had not made an enemy of a rebel. He had made an enemy of a mother, and there was no greater force in the universe. The screams that followed were said to haunt the palace for eternity. Point 7. The legend lives on. The Galactic Empire collapsed within the decade. Worlds broke away. Its armies lost their will to fight. The name Baba Yaga became a warning, a whispered curse, and on a quiet, distant world, under a starlit sky, an old woman's grave stood undisturbed. A single inscription marked the stone: for Yelena Markov, beloved mother, never forgotten. And in the shadows, a figure watched, waiting, because the universe would always birth tyrants, and a mother's wrath never dies.